you guys, are you ready for a walk down memory lane? Well, I've got a treat for you today. Today's furniture makeover video is actually 5 extreme and popular furniture makeovers for my channel. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a furniture refinisher. If you are new, welcome. I'm so happy to have you along on this journey. And if you are returning, hi you guys. I am so grateful that you have come back to check out this video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing, like I said, 5 extreme dresser makeovers. I've taken the original footage, re-edited in a different way, added in some new footage that you guys have not seen before if you've seen the original video. If you are interested in seeing the full videos, I'll put the playlist to that below. All right, you guys, let's get into it. Right, just gonna have to carefully knock it off. Alrighty, I am sitting down having a cuppa with you while we walk through these 5 furniture makeovers. I am removing the old base on this because I wanted to update it. It was a good candidate for a new base that I'm going to get to in a second. I want to put back this decorative piece so it completes the front. It would look weird without it on there. And I'm reusing the sides of the old base by removing the nails and then gluing and stapling these back down so that my new base has a good foundation to attach to this dresser. Recently, I had somebody ask why I didn't update the base on my dresser repaint. If you've seen that, where I've painted an oak dresser green and then I painted it dusty pink. Well, not every dresser is a good candidate for a base like this. This dresser is made out of a wood frame and particle board, which is covered in vinegar. It is not solid wood. The dresser that I repainted is solid oak, and if I put a small base like this on that dresser, it would over time crack and crumble, and ultimately that's my reputation. So I am very careful about which dresser I choose to update the base on. And like I said, not every dresser is a good candidate for this type of base. Now, that said, later on in this video, I do update a base with much bigger legs, and it is substantially bigger legs, and it is able to take the weight of that dresser. So you have to be really conscious of that. Of course, this base, it was inspired by the DIY wife. This is her design. She is definitely made famous for it here on YouTube. When I saw her do this base, I couldn't wait to try it out on the dresser. This was a full repaint, so I'm scuff sanding everywhere, getting ready for primer. In this one, I actually end up using an oil-based primer that has shellac in it to prevent bleed through, While this is particle board, there is real wood veneer on the top of it, and I would hate to get to my last coat and see that some of the wood veneer has bled through to the final coat. So that's why I'm using a shellac based primer. It has been a hot minute since I've used Dixie Belle Paint, sort of moving away from the mineral paint. I never really had any issues with the paint. It is a very good paint, especially if you're looking for an alternative to latex and you want to get a brushstroke free finish. This is a good one. Some tips here for getting that brushstroke free finish is you want to keep a mister bottle on hand, lightly mist your piece using a small amount on your brush and getting your paint on there and then just doing one final stroke to smooth everything out. I brush away from my edges, and then what I'm doing right here is feathering the line so it doesn't dry and then a line presents in my paint. This is a trick that my dad taught me, and old habits die hard, so I'm okay with that because my dad taught me and I like holding on to things he's passed down to me. And there's that final stroke at the very end there just to get a smooth finish. When I'm reattaching a base, I like to screw it into the middle first, level it all out, and then finish attaching the rest of the base around the dresser. Because this is a darker finish, I am using a polyurethane. I usually don't use a polyurethane, but I wasn't worried about it yellowing over time. To me, it matters what brush you use. I'm using a Purdy brush here that is meant for stain, and getting it on there, and like painting, I just do one final stroke to smooth everything out. Once you've done that, you don't really want to go back over what you've already laid down, otherwise you will get brush strokes in your finish. I end up sanding in between coats. I did 2 coats of the polyurethane and 3 on the top.
I already took a drawer out and sanded the front of it, and these are oak veneer on the front. The whole panel is plastic. This, it's all just one piece, one face. So, and if I do that, if I take it off, it's gonna have about an inch where these set out of the piece. This will set in. Okay, but these drawer faces are oak. I like them. I like them a lot. I'm gonna take all the hardware off.
What you saw me working through was a surprise. I did not expect these decorative pieces on the front to be plastic. They are plastic. So then I was like presented with the issue, do I leave them on there and then the piece looks dated, or do I take them off and have to figure out something different to do on those drawers? You'll see what I end up doing in a minute. Again, this was another good candidate for a new base. It is mostly veneer over particle board with a wood frame. Parts of the trim and stuff like that are also oak. The drawer faces, the rest of the drawer faces are oak, but mostly it was veneer. And even this on top here, this is not even veneer, it is plastic. It's a laminate rather than a veneer, a wood veneer.
I'm making it more modern, right? And so I felt like that was still super dated. There's plywood underneath. You had to take 8 screws out. It just sat in there like that, and it just came off. It is, I don't know if any of you have ever ventured this far before when you've made over furniture.
So I put that aside while I decide what on earth I'm going to do with it. I wanted to take advantage of the wood grain on the rest of the drawer fronts, so I'm sanding all those back to bare wood. It is plastic laminate, so I am priming it because it is a more slick surface and I want my paint to stick to the surface. I had a bunch of Dixie Belle paints of the same tone, and they only had a small amount in the bottom, so I just combined everything because I knew I was going to need a full jar to be able to paint this whole thing.
Mud puddle.
Lightly sand after the priming just to get rid of anything that landed on the primer.
It's my shorty brush. It's a Klingon. Love this brush. It's so great. Spray bottle, just
this short brush by Klingon, I think it's called an S50 or something like that. I call it a shorty brush. It has become my absolute favorite brush for painting and getting a smooth finish. It's just a lovely brush to work with, thick bristles, holds paint well, and the bristles are really soft. So it's a fabulous brush to use, and definitely one of my top 5 brushes. Okay, like I said, parts of this dresser are oak and parts are particle or laminate. It was totally trimmed out in oak, even though the top was a laminate. I wanted to whitewash the oak, so the drawer fronts and the frame, or the trims, are all getting a Rust-Oleum antique white, I believe it's called. Anyway, it's all listed in the description below, everything that I used. using a Minwax polyacrylic this time. It is water-based and I am using that in matte just to get a flatter look. Right, what to do about these drawer fronts? I had never done anything like this before, but I reconstructed a face for these drawers. I like to challenge myself. That's a running theme in most of my videos. So I measured out the drawer, cut ply to cover the front, and glued and stapled, or glued and clamped the plywood to the front, and then stapled it to make it extra secure. Then I just went ahead and cut the trim pieces, attached those with glue and staples as well. And here's the result.
I have never done that before. I think I'm about to cry. I'm super proud of myself. I just put my hand in top coat. Okay. Okay, so, right?
So, as you can see, I was pretty chuffed with that. I surprised even myself. But they turned out really good, and it all worked well because the top row of drawers were painted the same as the top and the sides, so it all worked really well together. I always feel like a mechanic whenever I take apart dresses, especially ones like this. I am like, what's the word? I am methodically taking apart this dresser piece by piece. I am taking the trim off the front because I felt like the pattern of it dated it, and plus I was going to use pole wrap, but I didn't end up finding it, and you'll see what I do in place of that in a second. But these are made out of oak, so I was going to keep them anyway. The top is made out of veneer with plywood, and the plywood was not in great, not plywood, particle board, but it wasn't in great shape, so I took the whole top off because I was going to replace it with something else, but that didn't end up working. So I tried something else, and I'll talk about that in a second. Removed the base. I mean, I am like taking everything off of this dresser. Then I needed to fix some of the particle board that had swollen. I used a glue and sawdust trick with that, and it was solid again, like better than before. And I only had to do that in a few places and then scuff sanded everything. Dried overnight, and this now is rock hard. It was a little split before because of the nail, but now that is not going anywhere for anyone. I sanded back all the Bondo so everything was smooth, and then I ended up putting the top back on the dresser upside down. It was in much better shape that way round, so I ended up doing that as my solution. And I'm adding a modified version of the base that you've seen me do twice so far. Just doing the legs because I kept the front face plate and it looked better that way anyway. So here it is, the top is turned upside down. I had sanded it down nice and smooth, and now I'm sealing in that raw wood fiber with a primer. I used 2 coats of that, sanding in between, sealing in all the gaps with a silicone cork. This is before my little silicone cork trick. If you haven't caught that, there's a short on that one. Makes less mess doing it that way. And then I ended up using a Dixie Belle paint that I had. I think it was a dark blue, I forget what it's called, but I added black to it because I just wanted it even darker. My painting methods are exactly the same, still using the Klingon short brush, and I'm getting the paint on there and then smoothing it out and brushing away from the edges of the dresser so that the paint doesn't pool on the edges of my dresser. I end up doing 2 coats of this blue, sanding smooth in between. Okay, the front of the dresser. Like I said, I wanted to use pole wrap, but the local hardware store near me didn't have any. That was an experience. And so I decided it was good. Anyway, it forced me in the best way to recycle, which absolutely love doing. So I took the pieces that were already on the dresser and I used them in a different way. I angled them differently and sanded everything back to raw wood and then sealed everything with Howard feed and wax. And it gave it a beautiful golden oak color, which went really well with the dark blue. For the dresser, I decided to do something a little different for the body, and I ended up sealing the Dixie Belle paint in a hemp seed oil sealer. You paint that on, you wipe it back, and you let it sit for a couple of hours, and then you wipe it back again. And that's a good way, a different way, another way to seal chalk paint. If you're new and you're enjoying this content, you're getting some value out of it, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button and join me in this journey. I post content just like this, also DIYs and more decorative finishes as well. I try it all and would love to have you along on the journey. How fun was that dresser? Okay. I think I was feeling homesick at this time, let's be completely honest. If you are new and you're not sure, and you can probably tell by my accent, I have an accent. I am from Australia and living in the US with my family. So I decided, I saw this paper, it was eucalyptus, it reminded me of Australia. So I went ahead and got the paper, and that was my inspiration for this whole piece. Right there, I discovered a dust bunny pile and thought for sure that there was a critter in there, but that's why I used the sticks, but there was no critter. So that was lucky. I chopped the base off on this one just to tidy things up, and I had cut the base without tape. I don't do that anymore. So I had to Bondo all the veneer that had chipped off. Tape helps the veneer to stop chipping. And I decided I would do a paint stain combo on this one, so the bottom two drawers were going to be stained and the top drawers were going to be covered in the paper that you guys are about to see. I shellacked everywhere that I was going to paint, and now I needed to build a foundation for my new base. This is not going to be where I build a base, but I still needed a foundation to be able to attach some legs that I'd received from an Amazon wish list. So I'm just framing it out. Little persuasion. Get in there. There we go. These to go into the base. So I do have the hardware. Now, like I said, I thought I was going to stain the legs and the bottom drawers, but I end up doing a paint wash on them. I'm using Rust-Oleum milk paint, pre-made milk paint, so it's not real milk paint. They just call it that. And I'm using it in this pale green color. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but it's below. In the description. I think it's called Coastal Blue, even though it's a green. I can't remember. I think. I could be wrong. I got this paper from an Etsy store. They also sell it on Amazon though, so I'll list both locations. They sell both on Etsy and Amazon. But I got it from an Etsy store. It's eucalyptus leaves, it's gold, it's gorgeous, and yeah.
Using my Krylon clear sealing wax.
The Krylon sealing wax is much like any other wax. You put it on and then you let it sit for a little bit and then you buff it off. I got these adjustable pulls from Amazon. They're fabulous. They look fabulous and I love that they're adjustable because then you don't have to drill new holes.
And then the bar doesn't move.
You can just put them in your old ones and they look beautiful. Right, massive dresser, king size. This is a beast. If you don't know the story about me getting it home, you can go check out the original video. I'll link it below. It was a story. It wouldn't be a Sarah makeover without a story. So I felt like these parts dated the piece, so I went ahead and removed them. Had no regrets at all. And of course it wouldn't be an extreme makeover for me if I didn't remove the base. Now, this was a, what is it? What was that? It was only a 9 drawer dresser, but it was completely solid. Every bit on it was completely solid. The frame, the sides, the top, the drawers, everything was, and when I say solid wood, I also mean a plywood, which is heavier than a particle board. So the base on this needs to be able to support the weight of the dresser. I was concerned about that. But before I even get to that, I bondoed all the front damage from taking off those decorative parts, smoothed it all out, and primed it in a shellac-based primer. This was oak in parts, and so it did bleed. So a shellac-based primer is really important. On this dresser, I went for Old Ochre, which is an Annie Sloan chalk paint. Still using my same, I told you, I love this brush, Klingon short brush. And I'm going for a textured look on this one. Now, even though I primed it, it did take like 3 coats of the Old Ochre to get really good solid coverage. I did not, I don't know why, I must have run out. But I did not prime the top with white primer. I ended up having some clear shellac, I think. So I did shellac it, so I did prime it. It's just in clear, not white. And so it took a lot of coats on the top. I think it ended up taking like 4 coats on the top to get really good coverage. Wanted to do something a little different on the insets of the drawers. So they got the same any Sloan Old Ochre on everything, everywhere. But then on, like I just said, the inset of the drawer, I took a glaze mixture that I had previously mixed up for a Pottery Barn dupe on a dresser that I'd done. The recipe is in that video. And so I went ahead and did a nice thick layer on the inside of the drawers. And then I got out my textured tools, which is so fancy. You guys, wait till you see it. There it is. It's a teasing brush from the dollar store. That's what I used as a texture tool to bring out some lines in the paint. And then of course I just needed to tidy up the edges, and I dry brushed the old ochre over the top of the glaze mixture just to bring out all that goodness so it looked like fiber, like material. All right, here we go. This base is like 4 times the size, the legs on it are 4 times the size that I usually do, but it is absolutely needed. While this dresser was only 9 drawers, I think it was the largest that I'd ever done. I think it was like over 80 inches wide. And so the principle is still the same. I am still attaching with pocket holes, putting the first screw in the middle, leveling everything out. But the feet on this were 4 times the size, so they needed to attach separately to the base themselves. So yeah, a beast of a dresser makeover. At first I did put Minwax, I think this is weathered wood, on the wood, but I felt like it turned it a bit purple. It was weird. So I don't show it, but I ended up using a watered down version of the glaze on the legs just to bring some, same tones on the legs as in the middle of the drawers. And then I'm using Annie Sloan lacquer in matte. And I'm not worried about brush strokes, obviously. That's why I'm going crazy on the dresser, because the paint is textured.
Oh, if you land in my top coat, I will not be happy.
A fly was bothering me that day, I guess. If you're enjoying this content and, feeling the love, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments and I will send you a virtual hug.
Okay, well, that was this week's video. Thank you for sticking in there with me to the end. If you've made it this far, you guys are my people. Thank you so much for following along. Let me know which extreme furniture makeover was your favorite. I would have to say the Tetris or Blocky dresser, as I've called it both those things, would have to be my favorite. I absolutely adored that piece. I got to reuse in a different way parts of the dresser rather than throwing them out and it ending up in landfill. It ended up back on the dresser and it made it a really unique piece. So that one was definitely my favorite. All right, next week, you guys, I will not be here. My eldest son is graduating high school. I can't believe it, you guys. He's gonna be with us through the summer, and then he is heading off to college to forge his own way in the world, and I am so proud of him. As I'm sure many of you know, we homeschool, and so the homeschooling group that we are a part of is holding a graduation ceremony for all the graduating seniors this year. That is next Saturday, so I will not be here, you guys. Think of me, send good vibes and prayers. I appreciate it. I will probably be a blubbering mess. My husband and I are both so proud of him. Anyway, that's the reason, you guys, I will not be here. But I will be back the following week with a really exciting furniture makeover. You are not going to want to miss that one, so hit the subscribe and the bell notification. If you do that, you'll get notified when my video goes live. All right, you guys, love you to bits, and I'll see you on a furniture makeover real soon. Bye. If you guys enjoyed this furniture makeover, make sure you hit this playlist and check out your favorite, and I will see you on another makeover real soon.